When I first wrote about denationalizing money in 1976, proposing that private institutions could issue competing currencies, most economists dismissed the idea as theoretical impossibility. They could not conceive how money could emerge without state authority, how trust could develop without central backing, or how a monetary system could operate without governmental control. Yet today, before our very eyes, Bitcoin demonstrates exactly what I theorized, that money is not a creation of the state, but rather an emergent property of voluntary human cooperation. Bitcoin represents the most profound validation of spontaneous order theory in our lifetime. Here is a monetary system that emerged without central planning, operates without governmental authority, and coordinates the economic activities of millions without any single entity comprehending the totality of its operations. It embodies every principle I spent decades developing: the knowledge problem, the impossibility of central planning, the superiority of evolved institutions over designed ones, and the elegant efficiency of market processes. The cryptocurrency phenomenon reveals something extraordinary about human nature and social coordination. When individuals are free to experiment, to fail, to learn, and to adapt, they create solutions that no central authority could have designed. Bitcoin's emergence proves that the most sophisticated monetary innovations arise not from the corridors of central banks, but from the decentralized intelligence of free individuals pursuing their own understanding of monetary problems. Today, we witness monetary evolution in real time, validating every insight about spontaneous order while challenging every assumption about the necessity of monetary monopoly. Chapter 1: The Knowledge Problem in Monetary Design. The fundamental challenge in monetary theory has always been the knowledge problem I identified in The Use of Knowledge in Society. No central authority possesses the information necessary to design an optimal monetary system because the relevant knowledge exists only in dispersed form throughout society. Bitcoin's emergence perfectly illustrates this principle. Consider what Satoshi Nakamoto actually accomplished. Rather than attempting to design the perfect currency, he created a protocol that enables monetary order to emerge through voluntary participation. He recognized that the essential problems of money, maintaining scarcity, preventing counterfeiting, facilitating exchange, could not be solved through centralized design but only through decentralized processes that harness dispersed knowledge. The traditional approach to monetary design suffers from what I called the fatal conceit, the belief that human reason can deliberately arrange society's institutions better than the spontaneous forces of evolution. Central bankers assume they possess the knowledge necessary to manage money supply, interest rates, and economic cycles. Yet their track record demonstrates the impossibility of such comprehensive knowledge. Bitcoin's blockchain technology embodies a profound epistemic insight. Instead of requiring any individual or institution to know the complete state of the monetary system, it creates a mechanism whereby accurate information emerges from the voluntary actions of participants. Each transaction, each mining operation, each validation contributes local knowledge to a global system that no single mind could comprehend. The mining process itself exemplifies spontaneous order. No central authority directs miners where to operate, what equipment to use, or how much energy to consume. Yet through the price mechanism, the fluctuating value of Bitcoin rewards relative to electricity costs, resources flow to their most valued uses. Miners respond to profit opportunities they understand locally, while contributing to a global security system that protects monetary integrity. This decentralized approach solves coordination problems that centralized systems cannot address. When Venezuelan bolivars lose value due to monetary mismanagement, individuals can protect their wealth through Bitcoin without requiring permission from any authority. When traditional banking systems exclude populations from financial services, Bitcoin provides access through nothing more than internet connectivity and basic software. The knowledge embedded in Bitcoin's design reflects not the wisdom of any single designer, but the accumulated experience of generations who struggled with monetary problems. It incorporates insights from Austrian monetary theory, cryptographic research, computer science, and game theory, knowledge that no planning authority could have assembled and coordinated. Chapter 2: Order without central command. Bitcoin demonstrates the essential distinction I developed between two types of order: taxis, which is deliberately organized, and cosmos, which emerges spontaneously. Traditional monetary systems represent taxis, consciously designed hierarchies with central banks at the apex, commercial banks beneath them, and citizens as passive recipients of monetary policy. Bitcoin represents cosmos, an emergent order that arises from the voluntary interactions of independent participants following simple rules. The absence of central authority in Bitcoin initially strikes observers as impossible. How can a monetary system function without someone in charge? Yet this question reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of order. The most sophisticated orders in human society, language, common law, market prices, all operate without central direction. They emerge because individuals, pursuing their own purposes while following certain rules, generate patterns of coordination that serve the common interest. Bitcoin's governance structure perfectly exemplifies spontaneous order. No single entity controls the protocol, yet changes occur through a decentralized consensus mechanism. Developers propose improvements, miners signal support, users adopt new versions, and the network evolves. This process mirrors how common law develops through judicial decisions or how language evolves through usage, not through deliberate planning, but through the accumulated choices of individuals responding to their particular circumstances. The security of Bitcoin emerges from aligned incentives rather than central enforcement. Miners compete to validate transactions because they receive rewards for honest behavior and suffer losses for dishonesty. No monetary authority monitors their compliance. The protocol itself makes honesty profitable and fraud costly. This demonstrates how effective institutions channel self-interest toward socially beneficial outcomes. Consider how Bitcoin handles the fundamental monetary challenge of maintaining scarcity. Traditional currencies rely on central bank promises to limit money creation, promises frequently broken when political pressures mount. Bitcoin solves this through mathematical certainty embedded in the protocol. The 21 million coin limit cannot be violated without unanimous consent from network participants, making it more reliable than any central bank commitment. The network effect that gives Bitcoin value exemplifies spontaneous order. No authority declared Bitcoin valuable. Its value emerged through voluntary exchanges as individuals discovered its useful properties. Each person who accepted Bitcoin for payment contributed to a growing network that made Bitcoin more valuable for others. This bootstrapping process created monetary value from pure coordination, demonstrating how market processes can solve problems that seem to require central direction. International Bitcoin adoption reveals spontaneous order operating across borders. Citizens in countries with unstable currencies naturally gravitate toward Bitcoin as a store of value. Entrepreneurs develop Bitcoin-based services to meet emerging needs. Merchants begin accepting Bitcoin payments to access global markets. These adaptations occur without any international monetary authority directing the process. The technical architecture of Bitcoin reflects spontaneous order principles. Rather than requiring trusted intermediaries, the system creates trust through transparency and mathematical verification. Every transaction becomes part of an immutable public record that anyone can audit. This openness enables coordination without requiring participants to trust any central authority. Chapter 3: Bitcoin as Information System. My analysis of the price system as humanity's greatest information processing network finds its most sophisticated expression in Bitcoin. The cryptocurrency represents an evolution in how societies coordinate economic activity through information aggregation and transmission. Like market prices, Bitcoin transactions convey far more information than appears on their surface. Every Bitcoin transaction broadcasts multiple signals simultaneously. The price at which Bitcoin trades relative to other currencies reflects collective judgments about monetary policy risks, inflation expectations, technological adoption rates, and regulatory uncertainties across the globe. This information emerges not from any central calculation, but from the voluntary choices of millions of individuals acting on their dispersed knowledge of local conditions. The blockchain itself functions as an information preservation system that solves problems I identified regarding knowledge transmission across time. Traditional monetary systems suffer from temporal knowledge problems. How can future generations learn from past monetary experiences when records can be altered or destroyed? Bitcoin's immutable ledger creates an incorruptible record of monetary choices that future economists can study to understand how decentralized monetary systems actually function. Mining operations aggregate information about energy costs, technological efficiency, and security requirements across the global economy. When miners deploy capital to secure the Bitcoin network, they signal their confidence in Bitcoin's long-term value while revealing information about regional electricity prices, hardware availability, and regulatory environments. This decentralized process creates security levels that adjust automatically to Bitcoin's economic importance. The price discovery mechanism in Bitcoin markets demonstrates information processing capabilities that no central planning system could replicate. When news emerges about regulatory changes, technological developments, or macroeconomic conditions, Bitcoin prices adjust within minutes to reflect new information. This rapid incorporation of dispersed knowledge into market prices provides signals that guide resource allocation more effectively than any central authority could achieve. Consider how Bitcoin facilitates international information transmission. When citizens in one country experience currency devaluation, their Bitcoin purchases signal this information globally within minutes. Entrepreneurs worldwide can observe these signals and develop services for affected populations. Investors can adjust portfolios based on real-time information about monetary instability. This information flows without requiring any international monetary authority to collect, process, and distribute data. The development of Bitcoin's technical infrastructure exemplifies how specialized knowledge gets coordinated through market processes. Programmers contribute code improvements based on their understanding of cryptographic security. Hardware manufacturers develop mining equipment based on their knowledge of semiconductor technology. Exchange operators provide trading services based on their understanding of market microstructure. No central planner coordinates these diverse knowledge contributions, yet they combine to strengthen the overall system. Bitcoin's volatility, often criticized as a defect, actually represents valuable information processing. Price fluctuations signal changing conditions and emerging risks that participants need to consider. This volatility will likely diminish as adoption increases and the information content of Bitcoin prices becomes more stable, just as gold price volatility decreased as monetary systems matured around metallic standards. The emergence of Bitcoin derivatives markets demonstrates how financial innovation extends information processing capabilities. Futures contracts enable market participants to express views about Bitcoin's future value, creating price signals that help coordinate current investment decisions. Options markets provide information about uncertainty and risk management needs. These innovations emerge spontaneously as market participants develop tools to handle information more effectively. Chapter 4: The Fatal Conceit of Monetary Central Planning. Bitcoin's success exposes the intellectual arrogance underlying modern monetary central planning. For nearly a century, economists and policymakers have assumed that monetary systems require conscious design and expert management. They believe that trained economists, equipped with mathematical models and statistical data, could manage money supply and interest rates better than market processes. Bitcoin demonstrates the fallacy of this assumption. The fundamental error of monetary central planning lies in what I term the fatal conceit, the belief that human reason can consciously organize complex social systems better than spontaneous evolutionary processes. Central bankers suffer from this conceit when they assume they possess the knowledge necessary to determine optimal money supply growth, appropriate interest rates, or proper responses to economic fluctuations. Consider the knowledge requirements for effective monetary management. Central bankers would need to understand the preferences of millions of individuals, the productivity of countless enterprises, the risk assessments of diverse investors, and the coordination problems facing entrepreneurs across the entire economy. They would need to predict how their policies will interact with evolving technologies, changing regulations, and shifting consumer preferences. No human mind, no committee of experts, no computer model can process this information effectively. Bitcoin emerged precisely because individuals recognized the impossibility of central monetary management. The 2008 financial crisis revealed how central bank policies had created systemic risks that no authority anticipated or controlled. Traditional monetary theory provided no adequate explanation for how expert monetary management had produced such devastating consequences. Bitcoin represented an escape from this failed system. The design principles of Bitcoin reflect deep skepticism about centralized expertise. Rather than trusting monetary authorities to maintain currency stability, Bitcoin eliminates human discretion from monetary policy. Rather than relying on expert judgment about appropriate money supply growth, Bitcoin embeds predetermined rules that cannot be changed without overwhelming consensus. Rather than depending on regulatory oversight to prevent abuse, Bitcoin creates transparency that makes abuse immediately visible. Central bank responses to Bitcoin reveal their attachment to the planning mentality. Rather than recognizing Bitcoin as a beneficial innovation that provides alternatives to failed monetary policies, most central bankers view it as a threat to their authority. They propose central bank digital currencies that preserve their control while adopting Bitcoin's technological capabilities. This response demonstrates their inability to understand that Bitcoin's value lies precisely in its independence from central control. The track record of monetary central planning supports Bitcoin's decentralized approach. Central banks have produced recurring cycles of inflation and recession, currency crises, asset bubbles, and financial instability. They have consistently failed to achieve their stated objectives of price stability and full employment. Their interventions have created moral hazard, encouraged excessive risk-taking, and distorted capital allocation throughout the economy. Bitcoin's monetary policy demonstrates superior characteristics compared to central bank management. Its predetermined money supply schedule provides certainty that no central bank can match. Its decentralized issuance prevents the political pressures that lead to monetary inflation. Its transparent operation eliminates the opacity that allows central banks to socialize losses while privatizing gains. The spontaneous order that emerges around Bitcoin proves that sophisticated monetary systems can develop without central planning. Wallet software appears to serve user needs. Payment processors develop to facilitate commerce. Custody services emerge to address security concerns. Trading platforms provide liquidity. These innovations arise through entrepreneurial discovery, not governmental direction. The global adoption of Bitcoin reveals how market processes can solve monetary problems that central planning cannot address. Citizens in countries with hyperinflation use Bitcoin to preserve wealth. Entrepreneurs in developing nations use Bitcoin to access global capital markets. Dissidents use Bitcoin to escape financial surveillance. These applications emerge through voluntary adoption, demonstrating Bitcoin's superiority to imposed monetary systems. Chapter 5: Evolutionary Superiority of Decentralized Money. Bitcoin represents a profound advancement in monetary evolution, demonstrating how decentralized systems adapt more effectively than centrally planned alternatives. Throughout human history, the most successful institutions have emerged through evolutionary processes rather than deliberate design. Money itself evolved from barter to commodity money to metallic standards without any central authority directing the process. Bitcoin continues this evolutionary tradition. The adaptive capacity of Bitcoin surpasses any centrally planned monetary system. When faced with technical challenges, the Bitcoin network evolves through voluntary innovation rather than bureaucratic decision-making. Developers propose solutions, users test implementations, and successful innovations spread through voluntary adoption. This process generates improvements faster and more reliably than central bank committees could achieve. Consider how Bitcoin responds to scaling challenges. Rather than requiring central authorities to determine optimal transaction capacity, the network adapts through multiple parallel innovations. Lightning Network development provides off-chain scaling solutions. Segregated witness increases block capacity. Various fee market mechanisms emerge to allocate scarce block space efficiently. These innovations arise through entrepreneurial experimentation, not central planning. The resilience of Bitcoin's decentralized architecture exceeds any centrally managed system. When individual nodes fail, the network continues operating. When mining operations shut down, difficulty adjustments maintain block production schedules. When exchanges close, trading migrates to alternative platforms. This anti-fragility emerges from the system's decentralized structure, which eliminates single points of failure that plague centralized systems. Bitcoin's evolutionary response to regulatory challenges demonstrates adaptive superiority. Rather than succumbing to governmental pressure, the network routes around restrictions through technological innovation. Privacy-enhancing technologies develop to address surveillance concerns. Decentralized exchanges emerge to reduce regulatory attack surfaces. Peer-to-peer trading platforms enable direct value transfer without intermediaries. The selection pressure operating on Bitcoin creates continuous improvement that central planning cannot match. Competing cryptocurrencies experiment with alternative consensus mechanisms, privacy features, and scaling solutions. Successful innovations often get incorporated into Bitcoin through network upgrades. This competitive evolution drives progress faster than any central authority could direct. Mining decentralization exemplifies evolutionary adaptation. As Bitcoin mining initially concentrated in specific regions, concerned participants developed technologies and incentives to encourage geographic distribution. Pool mining protocols emerged to enable smaller participants. Stratum protocols reduced bandwidth requirements. ASIC development became more competitive and accessible. These adaptations occurred through market forces, not regulatory mandates. The development of Bitcoin's ecosystem demonstrates evolutionary specialization. Different organizations focus on their comparative advantages. Some develop wallet software, others provide custody services, still others create payment processing solutions. This specialization increases efficiency and innovation speed compared to monolithic central bank operations that attempt to manage all monetary functions internally. Bitcoin's monetary policy evolution proves superior to central bank discretion. The predetermined supply schedule eliminates the political pressures that corrupt central bank decision-making. The algorithmic difficulty adjustments maintain network security automatically. The transparent operation enables public verification that central bank opacity prevents. These features emerged through careful protocol design informed by decades of monetary theory and historical experience. International adoption patterns reveal Bitcoin's evolutionary advantages. Countries with stable currencies adopt Bitcoin gradually, primarily for investment and technological exploration. Countries with unstable currencies adopt Bitcoin rapidly for wealth preservation and capital flight. This differentiated adoption demonstrates how market processes naturally allocate monetary innovations where they provide the most value. The ongoing development of Bitcoin demonstrates continuous evolutionary improvement. Taproot upgrades enhance privacy and smart contract capabilities. Schnorr signatures reduce transaction sizes and improve security. Various Layer 2 solutions expand functionality while preserving the base layer's security properties. These improvements emerge through consensus among network participants rather than central decree. Chapter 6: Bitcoin and Constitutional Economics. Bitcoin embodies the constitutional principles I developed in The Constitution of Liberty, the idea that sustainable freedom requires institutional frameworks that constrain arbitrary power. Just as constitutional law limits governmental authority through predetermined rules, Bitcoin constrains monetary authority through cryptographic protocols that no single entity can violate. The constitutional economics framework I developed emphasizes the importance of rules over discretion in maintaining stable social cooperation. Traditional monetary systems grant central banks discretionary power to alter money supply, manipulate interest rates, and intervene in financial markets. This discretion inevitably leads to abuse as political pressures override economic logic. Bitcoin eliminates such discretion through mathematical certainty. Bitcoin's protocol functions as a monetary constitution that protects individual economic rights. The 21 million coin limit prevents monetary debasement that transfers wealth from savers to debtors. The pseudonymous transaction system protects financial privacy from governmental surveillance. The decentralized validation process prevents censorship of peaceful economic activity. These protections emerge from the protocol's constitutional structure, not from political promises. The rule of law, essential for free society, finds its purest expression in Bitcoin's algorithmic governance. Laws become meaningful only when they apply equally to all participants and cannot be changed arbitrarily by those in power. Bitcoin's protocol enforces identical rules for all network participants. No individual or institution receives special privileges or exemptions. Changes require overwhelming consensus, making arbitrary rule modification practically impossible. Consider how Bitcoin addresses the fundamental constitutional problem of limiting governmental power over money. Traditional constitutions attempt to constrain monetary policy through legal restrictions, but these prove ineffective when economic crises create political pressure for emergency measures. Bitcoin solves this problem through technological constraints that cannot be overridden by political decisions. The separation of powers principle finds new expression in Bitcoin's architecture. No single entity controls all aspects of the monetary system. Developers write code, miners validate transactions, users adopt software versions, and market participants determine prices. This distributed authority structure prevents the concentration of power that corrupts centralized monetary systems. Bitcoin's transparency requirements exceed any constitutional mandate for governmental accountability. Every transaction becomes part of a permanent public record that anyone can audit. This radical transparency prevents the hidden wealth transfers that characterize fiat monetary systems, where inflation taxes savers to benefit borrowers and politically connected interests. The property rights protection inherent in Bitcoin surpasses any constitutional guarantee. Traditional constitutions promise to protect property but often include exceptions for emergency powers, eminent domain, or regulatory taking. Bitcoin's cryptographic security makes property seizure impossible without voluntary cooperation from property owners. Private keys create genuinely private property that governments cannot confiscate through legal decree. Bitcoin's emergence validates my argument that the most important constitutional principles develop through evolutionary processes rather than deliberate design. The cryptocurrency community discovered through trial and error which governance mechanisms work effectively, which consensus rules maintain network stability, and which incentive structures align individual and collective interests. The jurisdictional competition that Bitcoin enables serves constitutional functions by constraining governmental abuse. When citizens can easily transfer wealth across borders through Bitcoin, governments face competitive pressure to maintain reasonable policies. This exit option provides protection against governmental predation more effectively than many constitutional restrictions. The immutability of Bitcoin's transaction history creates constitutional protection for economic memory. Governments often attempt to rewrite economic history by altering records, adjusting statistics, or redefining monetary aggregates. Bitcoin's blockchain preserves an incorruptible record of economic activity that enables future generations to understand how decentralized monetary systems actually functioned. Bitcoin's consensus mechanisms demonstrate how constitutional choice can operate without traditional political processes. Rather than requiring formal amendment procedures controlled by political majorities, Bitcoin enables constitutional change through voluntary coordination among network participants. Changes occur only when they benefit the overall network, not when they serve narrow political interests. The global adoption of Bitcoin reveals how constitutional innovations can spread without requiring formal legal recognition. Individuals adopt Bitcoin because its constitutional properties provide better protection for their economic interests than traditional legal frameworks. This voluntary adoption demonstrates the power of constitutional competition in promoting human freedom. Chapter 7: Contemporary Applications of Spontaneous Order. Bitcoin's validation of spontaneous order theory extends far beyond monetary systems, providing insights for addressing contemporary American challenges across multiple policy domains. The principles that enable Bitcoin's decentralized coordination can guide reforms in healthcare, education, financial regulation, and technology policy that would unlock innovation while protecting individual freedom. In healthcare policy, Bitcoin's peer-to-peer architecture suggests alternatives to centralized single-payer systems and heavily regulated insurance markets. Just as Bitcoin enables direct value transfer without financial intermediaries, direct primary care arrangements allow patients and physicians to interact without insurance company interference. Health savings accounts create individual ownership that mirrors Bitcoin's personal custody model. Telemedicine platforms demonstrate how technology can disintermediate traditional gatekeepers while improving access and reducing costs. Educational policy can learn from Bitcoin's innovation through voluntary adoption rather than centralized mandate. School choice programs create competitive pressure similar to cryptocurrency competition, enabling educational entrepreneurs to develop innovative approaches that serve diverse student needs. Online learning platforms demonstrate how technology can personalize education while reducing costs, just as Bitcoin personalizes monetary sovereignty while reducing transaction fees. Financial regulation provides particularly relevant applications of Bitcoin's spontaneous order insights. Rather than attempting to prevent all financial risks through comprehensive regulation, policymakers could enable market-based risk management through better information transparency and property rights protection. Bitcoin's success suggests that markets can develop sophisticated risk management tools when participants bear the full consequences of their decisions. The emergence of decentralized finance protocols around Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies demonstrates how financial innovation occurs when regulatory barriers are reduced. Automated market makers, decentralized lending protocols, and synthetic asset platforms all emerged through entrepreneurial experimentation rather than regulatory design. These innovations provide financial services more efficiently and inclusively than traditional banking systems. Technology policy debates about content moderation, data privacy, and platform regulation can benefit from Bitcoin's decentralized approach. Rather than granting centralized authorities power to determine acceptable speech or appropriate data usage, decentralized protocols enable individuals to make their own choices while bearing the consequences. Blockchain-based identity systems, encrypted communication protocols, and peer-to-peer storage networks all demonstrate alternatives to centralized platform control. Immigration policy reveals another application of spontaneous order principles. Just as Bitcoin enables global capital mobility that benefits both sending and receiving economies, labor mobility creates mutual benefits when individuals can pursue opportunities across jurisdictions. Bitcoin's borderless nature suggests how reducing artificial barriers to peaceful economic activity can generate prosperity for all participants. Environmental policy can incorporate Bitcoin's incentive alignment rather than relying solely on central planning. Carbon pricing mechanisms harness market forces to discover efficient emission reduction strategies, just as Bitcoin's fee market allocates scarce block space efficiently. Private conservation initiatives demonstrate how property rights and voluntary cooperation can protect environmental resources more effectively than regulatory mandates. The response to recent economic disruptions reveals spontaneous order's adaptive capacity. When pandemic restrictions disrupted traditional economic relationships, entrepreneurs quickly developed delivery services, remote work technologies, and contactless payment systems. These innovations emerged through voluntary coordination rather than central direction, demonstrating markets' superior ability to adapt to changing conditions. Bitcoin's influence on Federal Reserve policy demonstrates how competitive pressure constrains central bank abuse. As more individuals and institutions adopt Bitcoin as a store of value, central banks face market pressure to maintain currency stability. This competitive dynamic provides protection against monetary debasement more effectively than political constraints. The development of Bitcoin infrastructure in America creates economic opportunities that government programs cannot replicate. Mining operations provide productive uses for stranded energy resources. Software development creates high-value employment in emerging industries. Financial services innovation attracts global talent and capital. These benefits emerge through voluntary market processes rather than industrial policy. State-level Bitcoin adoption reveals how jurisdictional competition can drive beneficial policy innovation. States that embrace Bitcoin-friendly regulations attract investment and entrepreneurship. This competitive federalism demonstrates how decentralized governance structures can discover effective policies through voluntary choice rather than central mandate. Conclusion. Bitcoin stands as the most compelling proof of spontaneous order theory in human history. This remarkable monetary innovation emerged without central planning, operates without governmental control, and coordinates global economic activity through voluntary cooperation alone. It validates every insight I developed about the knowledge problem, the impossibility of central planning, and the superior adaptive capacity of decentralized systems. The cryptocurrency revolution demonstrates that the most sophisticated social institutions arise not from expert design, but from the accumulated wisdom of individuals pursuing their own purposes within frameworks that channel self-interest toward mutual benefit. Bitcoin's success reveals how technological innovation can restore individual sovereignty over money, the most fundamental tool of economic cooperation. Yet Bitcoin's significance extends beyond monetary theory. It provides a template for addressing contemporary challenges through spontaneous order rather than central control. From healthcare to education, from financial services to environmental protection, the principles that enable Bitcoin's decentralized coordination can guide policy reforms that expand human freedom while promoting prosperity. The intellectual humility required to appreciate Bitcoin's achievement challenges our era's pervasive faith in expert management and centralized solutions. Bitcoin succeeds precisely because it recognizes the limitations of individual knowledge and creates mechanisms for coordinating dispersed information through voluntary choice. This epistemic modesty enables practical solutions that ambitious planning cannot achieve. As we face an uncertain future marked by technological disruption and political polarization, Bitcoin offers hope through demonstrated proof that human cooperation can flourish without coercive direction. It shows how individuals, freely choosing to follow simple rules while pursuing their own understanding of their circumstances, can create order more elegant and effective than any conscious design. The task before us is to protect the conditions that enable such spontaneous innovation while resisting the intellectual arrogance that seeks to control what we cannot fully comprehend. Bitcoin's emergence reminds us that humanity's greatest achievements arise not from the plans of experts, but from the freedom of individuals to discover solutions through voluntary cooperation and peaceful competition.